already cut another like 35% of it a couple years ago. What they cutting back like that for? But then you have the conclusions of these accountings that the Doge team is doing. It's also telling them who is skimming off the top of our wealth in order to finance their opulent lifestyles. So if you're going to activate NESARA GESARA properly, you have to first know where everything that's going to be used as a backing for the financial system that has no such thing as interest or credit. You either got it or you don't got it. You either can afford it or you can't afford it. Right? Ain't no credit. Because credit creates what we call servitude debt serfs. The servitude debt serfs are people who's into somebody else's pocket and can't live their own life until they get out them people's pocket. This is what the music industry do to its artists. They keep them to the point where they can't use them no more and they can't make money on their own. Then they cut them loose with all their money in the music industry pocket. Right? So you seeing the whole thing, Moderno and all that, it's the same play that they played with Saddam Hussein.
Muhammad
with a lookalike, because he's a Saddam Hussein lookalike.
That's right.
Some people think it's the same actor. I don't think it's the same actor, but I think they came from the same casting call. That's when you call all of the actors to play a part. Maduro was the leader of one of the cartels of Venezuela, who exiled the duly elected president. I think he went to the Middle East somewhere. And he'd been in exile for 3 or 4 years, and he was the president the people elected, but Maduro established a coup that ran him out of there. They reenacted the Obama administration when Trump was caught up in the Russiagate scandal. It's the same thing, but it's somewhere else, because sometimes it's too close at home for us to really see it. So they have to show it to us away from home. If you're trying to get the mainland people to see what happened. Now, another thing that's tied to Maduro is the voting machines and who ordered them and what was the specs ordered on the machine, because they came from Venezuela. The 2020 election steal. So this is getting deeper and deeper, because now it's forcing people to make moves. That was not a Russian ship that they captured. That's why Putin didn't demand the ship back. He demanded the people back. He wanted to try them over there because they're Ukrainians. And they wanted to bring the Russian ship to escalate military warfare between the United States and Putin. But Putin's equivalent of what used to be the KGB and the CIA are actively communicating the intelligence that's telling them how these people are trying to start the war, and this is how you can make a preemptive strike. We watching it play out in real time, but we don't know what we're looking at because it's too close to home. Now they playing it out at intervals and spaces. Not to mention, a lot of people think that they waking up the great Leviathan, the serpent of the sea. Right? And some people think that they're trying to harvest some of the blood of the dragon, which I would say would be a very horrible idea. If it's real dragon blood, there's no container you would be able to hold it in. It has to, true dragon's blood has to evaporate in the air, and it don't leave a trace behind. Like if our blood evaporated, it'll leave a charred residue. Dragon blood doesn't do that, but it's also acidic to the touch. So that would be a bad idea, trying to harvest some dragon's blood. The simulated dragon's blood that they make for ritual purposes doesn't even have 1/10 of the power that real dragon blood has, but you gotta have to know how to handle mercury in order to know how to handle real dragon's blood. So I don't think they want to do that, because sometimes the dragon blood is sentient, so it will pick up and to perceive your ideas of how you intend to stop it, and it can alter and adjust in order to be able to go back to the dragon from which you took it. Because that's all they do, is it returns back to its source. And anything they try to stop it, it can eat through it. So it's a lot going on with the Venezuelan thing, more than what meet the naked eye. But what meet the naked eye is prepping you for what you haven't seen that's about to come.
Now, some people, before we go to the next video, so what is your thoughts on the silver refinery that they setting up in Tennessee so they can allegedly funnel this silver? And do you think J.P. Morgan don't got all the silver that he say that he been sitting on? That's all a host? But we always know that they don't really never have like the people that was running the field. They ain't really never have no natural wealth really.
But J.P. Morgan's wealth is not predicated upon any of what they call reserve.
Okay.
The fiat dollar does not require anything to support it, because it wouldn't be a fiat then.
That's right. Go ahead.
The word fiat means somebody said it got power, but it don't got power for real. It's an illusion.
That's right.
How do you give the illusion? What's the grand scale? You force people to trade in oil using the fake dollar. And by trading in something that's so critical to our industrial lifestyle, it gives the artificial life to the dollar. Right? But just like the dragon's blood, the oil has to return back to the earth. So the dollar then is traveling, because remember, it's just a dye marker in the water of our energy field. It's the green dye marker. This is why they call it the currency, because by watching the dollar, you can follow the current to the sea. And you can see the current as it flows within the field of the water, because you got a dye marker. You can follow the direction of the flow of the money. And when you learn criminal investigation and you trying to figure something out, the number one rule is follow the money. Right? Follow the money if you want the MO. Right? Because the money is showing you the direction of the energy flow. The one who's benefiting 9.9 out of 10 is the one at the end of the money trail. They the ones that benefited the most. Right? So they using the same principle, except they doing the reverse. They cutting off the money supply to the deep state. And in the open, they showing us what looked like Debo tactics.
Yeah, we taking it.
We took that. Yeah. But really, we're not taking nothing, because North, South, and Central America and Greenland is included in this. A lot of people don't know that. That is the collective of what we call Turtle Island.
That's right.
Canada and the United States got the same QSIP number. That means it's the same company. It's just two different parts of the same company. As we say in factory work, it's either in the trim department or it's in the chassis department. And that's where the majority of the car is assembled.
Wow.
So Canada is the chassis, and America is the body shop. It's the trim shop, where you put all of the stuff together on the inside of the car. Set the wires and for the sensors and all of that. And then when you get the chassis, you put the motor in and the parts that run. It's two different functions in the same company. Now remember, Queen Diallo has been putting it in the public domain, following the tribal tradition, that she took over Canada.
That's right. I
She
remember
couldn't take over Turtle Island. She could only take over a province because she's the ceremonial chief.
I remember it.
Right? The ceremonial tribes fill in where the actual tribe don't remember the culture. And we keep on moving to victory until all tribes is represented knowingly or unknowingly. When we restoring the land, every tribe has to be represented. And the big mama that speak up for the collective, she have to speak up for all tribes across the land, even if she don't like them motherfuckers. She still got to speak up for them because they're their own tribe. She don't got like nothing about them. But to keep from being biased, no big eyes, no little U's, right? Don't take sides in other people's conflict. So she can't take sides. All she can do is say, if the tribe is still on the same bloodline, give them their shit. Right? And then the government, that's a corporation, is not really a government. You're going to know when we move back in power, when they start rounding up bar members. Bar members are not domestic legal advocates from our systems. They are barrister carryovers, and that's why they have to be bar members, because they have to be certified by the Crown. The Crown don't operate over here. They ain't supposed to, unless they run in the interim government. The interim government is temporary, right? And according to Noble Drew Ali, he was going to leave the European in power until when?
Till we wake up.
Until we learn how to run a government. Now, based on what I've seen from the young youth that's stepping up now, not only do we know how to run the government, we can revamp it and make it better, leaner, faster, stronger, and more productive and beneficial to the people.
That's indeed. Right.
All we got to do is kill the old system. The death of the old system is announced with the final collapse of the banking system and the mortgage system, because all of the mortgage is predicated upon fraud.
That's right.
Because there is no money. The bank never gives you anything of value.
Right.
They just write on a piece of paper how much you got to pay.
Right.
Right. So the banks can't own real estate. So therefore, even if they foreclose, they can't hold ownership of the property. So they can't sell it. That means they can seize it, but they can't sell it because it ain't theirs to sell. Why? Because banks don't own property.
Right.
The only property allowed to own is the physical building by which the institution does business. That's it. Right? Because that's the embassy. Now, if you don't know how an embassy works, you will never understand that every bank is an embassy. The embassy is what they call an enclave or a city-state that represents the interests of their origin country. It is a soil in the foreign land that operate under the foreign representatives' land law or common law. So the banks are pushing barrister law in cahoots with the courts. They are transacting business all day, every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. They are continuously doing business on our behalf without our input, participation, knowledge, nor opportunity to object, which makes it a constructed fraud. You can't trade my shit without me knowing it, and it's not fraud. So by the definition of contract, when the fraud is discovered, it voids the contract on the prima facie case. That meaning on the first look, de novo, the first look on the new, right? The new look, when you revisit it, stare decisis, the prior ruling still stands as long as it hasn't been competently overturned. The old rules is called grandfather clauses. Grandfather the old rules in. Tribally, there is not a single tribe under the oral tradition that has renounced the oral tradition as the way by which the tribes collectively seek to restore balance to the land and reclaim the land from anybody who have paper contracts.
That's facts.
So if we grandfather in the tribal right from the day before Columbus came, we will be operating in what's called our territorial rights. We are enforcing, by putting it in the public domain, our territorial right to assert our jurisdiction over the land.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the message of the final count has to be given by the Black Madonna, meaning the Dark Mother who assumed the sacerdotal seat on behalf of the matriarchs of the land.
Mm-hmm.
And it's through this action that we reclaim our right to rule ourselves, because now we know how to run government. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, you dropped
right.
it.
So now that we know how to run government at the close of the age and the dawning of the new age, we just wait for the mother and child, Big Mama and the baby, the Black Madonna, to show you and prove that we understood the assignment and effectuated the remedy following the tribal tradition, right? And put it in the public domain for all tribes to be able to access the information to realize that an ancient tribal right has been exercised to its limit to produce a present reorganization of all assets across the land in order to restore the matriarchy, rebuild the families, strengthen and tighten the family units, and to give us the resources by which all of the above is to be enforced and taken care of. So you count the days and you add the numbers in order to get to the destination. It's a formula, right? So you will see certain stuff and you will know it means something, but never stop to even attempt to figure out what it means. So all the stuff we see with Maduro, with the government, the satire, it's political satire. It's Plato's Republic. It's the dynamic of politics or politricks playing out in the general public to give you the illusion of something that's not exactly what it is, but it's just a representative of something that's available. We got, remember, in the UNDRIP documents of the United Nations, it's telling us what's our rights. America got one called an AMDRIP, American Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. In these, if you understand what your rights are, you don't need permission to exercise a right. You only have to exercise the right for it to be protected. We had a right to our oral traditions. So when we put it in the public domain following the oral tradition, the only people that can object is us. And we can only object on the fact as if it don't meet the qualified standard of a public notice. If all of the other information is verifiable and supported as fact. Roll the coin, Elder. What you got?
Somebody asked before we go to the next one, where does the Postmaster General fit into all of this?
The Postmaster General came in under European law. And the person who took the Postmaster General tribally was the guy named something Christopher. Right? He seized that seat. Now, from the colonizers' position, because you got two Postmaster Generals. One was represented by the tribes under the Continental Congress. This is the one that what's his name? Something Christopher is his last name. But he took that seat. And the other guy, Nathan-J. Gould, right?
Yeah.
He sees the Postmaster General flagship.
Is it Russell? Is it Russell?
Yeah, Russell. Right? Yeah, Russell J. Gould or something like that. Yeah. But he captured what's called the flag rights of the Continental Congress that produced the United States. Right? So he caught in on the transition that nobody had filled the office. And that's called a vacant office. Upon the discovery of a vacant office, certain steps you got to take to seize the office. But these two postmasters was the ones that were supposed to negotiate the resolution to the Civil War. That's why you had two postmaster seats. The Civil War was the corporation known as the United States and General George Washington, who was actually a French general, not an American general, because America wasn't America yet.
Right.
And if he was a French general, that means that he derived his power from France. So when you realize Georgia became Georgia under Andrew Jackson, I think it was, requesting King George to create a military buffer zone to stop the tribes from supporting the Gullah War. That was the way that they was negotiating with Spain for Florida. And they used the protectorate, negotiate the protectorate right of the Louisiana Purchase with France. We wasn't instrumental in none of that. But all of the paperwork is available throughout historical referencing, right? From Andrew Jackson and asking King George to establish that military buffer zone and setting up Georgia, which is also the place of the Trail of Tears, which is also the origin point of what we call the paper genocide. And when they ran the Trail of Tears, they were saying an Indian train coming, and then everybody's like, we ain't getting on that damn Indian train. F their government. That's how we felt. They called us outlaws.
Hey, Rod, somebody was asking me about could you tell us about the orphan train? Because I was doing a little research on it, and they said they was sending this orphan train out to try to get us to adopt these foreigners so that they can inherit our rights. And then once we die off, because I noticed once you adopt a kid in their UCC commercial system, that kid is more of your kid than your blood kid, according to their UCC system. So what is your take on how they was using that orphan train to try to get us to adopt kids, these foreign kids, into our tribes, just similar to the Indian train?
Well, they wasn't soliciting us. They were soliciting the $5 Indians. And I'm mainly the European ones. And then you had a bunch of females that came from Europe that couldn't have children. It was barren. And so when most of the babies came in from Europe after village raids by the Inquisition, right? When they was doing village raids, they was killing a lot of the adults. And remember, one of the spoils of war is the children. One of the original spoils of war is the children. And the purpose was for the children was supposed to be the servant of the house that captured them. This is the origin of your slaves, where slaves came from creating a working staff for the royal house that was loyal to the royal house because they grew up there. You know, as they grow up, they teach them different stuff. And this is what you call being cultured. Being cultured or being groomed. Now they talk about grooming, they talking about sexual grooming of a child, but originally every husband had to groom his wife. That means teach her how to be the woman you need in your life versus letting the world teach her how to be the bitch that make you miserable. That's the difference. So when you used to come into the royal house, they put you with people that raised you up, and you had certain rights of royalty have that the peasants don't got, but you still classified as a peasant or a bastard. And that's why the bastard child was always looked down on. And another reason is because they don't know if it was a parthogenic birth or not. Because the woman that's in charge of her parthenogenesis, she can make a male child off the DNA of all of the men she ever been with without the aid of a man. All she had to do has been had sex with a man. And she could be celibate for 30 years and make herself pregnant.
Hey, shout out Linda Turner for the super chat. Shout out Mimi for the super chat. Yo, they gonna take about 60% of that super chat. I'd rather you just send it straight to Raw. If you gonna send us a donation, I'm dropping Raw Cash App and the cash. Just send it straight to Raw because they gonna take $60 off that 100. But I mean, hey, it's much love though. We appreciate it though. Hey Rod, somebody said, have you had any updates on Larry Hoover before we roll that next clip?
No, everything around Larry Hoover is real hush hush. So I don't know. For all I know, Larry might be at home with his family playing dominoes with his sons. I don't know. I've got no information that's been, but it will be some when the time comes. A whole lot of this stuff is about to spill out into the open to the point where it's undeniable because we asserting our tribal rights to reclaim the jurisdiction, and we are watching the military facilitate us reclaiming our jurisdiction as the law of the land overrides the admiralty jurisdiction that we are overthrowing in real.
People that hate us. It's so many people that hate us because of these deep state suckers who've been running the country for so long. Do you think that these guys are out to stop they hate America and they just want to blow the people up or get rid of the people, or are they after the rogue government? Are they blaming the whole America, or are they blaming just the rogue government that been over America? Because this is our country, but we have been ran by infiltrators and rogue government. So do the whole country take the blame for the suckers, the aristocrat suckers and deep state suckers like who are criminals?
Well, let me answer your question with a question, which I don't normally do, but it's relevant. Right. When the Israelis moved in Palestine, did the Palestinians see all Israelis as a problem?
No.
But did the Israelis see all Palestinians as a problem?
Yep.
Okay, now your leadership determines how your country appears to the public. If they drop a bomb, they're not dropping a bomb 9 out of 10 on the leadership. They dropping them in cities where people live at.
Right.
Right. So if they get mad at our leadership and they want to do something about it, they're not going to attack the leadership. They're going to attack the people in the country.
Yeah, boy, that's cold.
It's military 101, the basics.
Yeah.
Right? Because don't nobody stand across a field with a musket no more and say, let's fight.
Nope.
Or they don't ride in facing each other on horseback with swords no more, or jousting javelins. That's all ancient warfare.
Right.
Now they fight from a distance by shooting bombs.
Right.
Across waterways. Right. So when you talk about, he was talking about the production of uranium. I think he said uranium.
Yeah, uranium. Yeah.
Right. So, but he didn't tell you that Nigeria also is one of the number one or major manufacturers of lithium, which is also a critical component to nuclear development.
Yeah. And
now, we ain't really worried about that because nuclear energy is ancient now. It's so outdated now.
I see that. I can see
right? Now you got to worry about hydrogen energy, which is derived from water. You got to adjust for what they call electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere or kinetic energy that can be harvested just out of the air, or what they would call free electricity. Right? So the nuclear power, which can accelerate the production by speeding up turbines faster in the production of electricity. So, but you still need to understand physics in order to understand how to not need nuclear energy, because it's not the cleanest form of energy. It's not new. They done found ancient nuclear sites all over the world where we was manufacturing nuclear weapons. This is why I tell you, you got to study the Vamanas Wars, the Anunnaki Wars, the Pyramid Wars. They ain't talking about warfare with rocks. They talking about ships flying across the sky shooting lasers.
Yep.
Right? They just using the ancient language that it doesn't seem as. So now instead of shooting lasers, they throwing thunderbolts.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. They use based on what they could describe back then to describe what they were seeing.
Well, we have to figure out what they're talking about by understanding the difference in the time frame and asking ourselves, well, what would we call this in modern times?
Right.
We wouldn't call it a thunderbolt. We would call it a laser. What it is.
Yeah. Scorpion. They say, scorpion sting. It sting like a scorpion. It's like a missile or something.
Yeah, those are called stun guns.
Yeah.
Scorpion stingers.
Yeah, stun guns. That makes sense. All right, this next part is a 7 minutes long. This is the first part that you told to the AI you told me to do about the
let's go.
All right, so then the next 7 minutes will be about the
deference. The Chevron deference was taking the power of the administrators away when they overturned it. It was enforced under Chevron in order for administrators to operate as specialists in a particular field of government administration, and they was making rules up as they go because they the specialists, right? There was also another case before the Supreme Court about administrative law judges. Why is this important? They are all occupational operatives of a foreign government. They're not operating on behalf of we the people. They're operating on behalf of the crown of England and France, right? Because King George was a French king that chartered the first bar in 1863 in Savannah, Georgia, right? So they're showing you how they are masquerading as legit, hiding behind fancy buildings and robes. The Constitution says our trials are supposed to be public. They're not public, they public access. That's a difference. Public trial means that you're supposed to, like for instance, the court TV channel, it's supposed to be running 24 hours a day out of every courtroom. Every time the court open up, it's supposed to be a channel that shows the public what's going on in that court. But if they showed us what was really going on, we would catch the fraud 100 times faster. So they gave us access, public access, to a closed trial. Public access, you would be allowed to take your phone in there, your camera in there. You're not allowed to record the proceedings. Right? That's because they doing secret squirrel stuff.
Illegal. Yep.
Right. Well, It depends on what you mean by illegal. It's unconstitutional, but I don't know if it's illegal because remember, they got a right to an administrative court system.
Mm-hmm.
But the administrative court system is only supposed to review codes and statutes.
Contract,
right?
pretty much. Mm-hmm.
Right. So the judiciary or Article 3 court is the one that's supposed to hear what's called criminal complaints. There are no Article 3 courts hearing criminal complaints because all state courts, criminal state cases become federal civil cases once you bypass that state Supreme Court. When you move your case from state to federal, it's no longer a criminal case. It's now you dealing with contracts.
Commercial.
Because you filing a lawsuit. Right? It's civil litigation in federal court. It's a lawsuit. Mm-hmm. You're suing the corporation for whatever you put in your habeas corpus.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now that you're in the federal courts, they don't call it a criminal complaint no more. That's because it's no longer under Article 1 administrative jurisdiction. It's under Article 3, which is what we call the de jure court. The Article 3 court is the constitutional court. But what we don't know is there are other constitutional court called tribal courts. But they only deal with tribal aspects. They have more of a right to try you for what's called a criminal complaint than an administrative court because they're guaranteed under Article 3. And this is how you know the fraudulent court versus the real court. And this is why the judge is going to end up going to jail because they all operating for a foreign agency, but none of them registered under the Foreign Agent Act. Now, for reference, Muammar Gaddafi offered the wealth of his nation and $5 billion to Louis Farrakhan. The government told Farrakhan that if he took the money without registering as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agent Act and the Trading with the Enemies Act, that he couldn't receive the money. Now, at no time was any of the senators or congressmen that was being lobbied by foreign interests told to register under the Foreign Agent Act to receive whatever the foreign interest government or group was giving them as a lobby, right? So this is showing you two different things about foreign agent. They get to decide who's supposed to register as a foreign agent, and they have a standard and a criteria. If you speak up on behalf of the tribes, then you're not supposed to receive any financial support from anybody except the tribes. That's in their contracts. Right? The tribes are not allowed to help each other because if we get caught helping each other, the government crashed down on the whole tribe of both that was helping each other. We had to build tribes so structured and organized that they can't infiltrate, and they still infiltrated because we didn't know that they look like us, but they not us. This is where you seen Bobby Hemmett was talking about Empress Verdiasi, right? Empress Verdiasi she didn't sit in the sacerdotal seat to reclaim the matriarchal land because she had been infiltrated by people that look like us that ain't us. That sabotaged her whole program.
She said it.
Now, I don't know these people. I never met them, and I don't know their names, but I know they was there. And the reason I know they was there is because she only went so far, then she stopped. That's what made me know that she had got infiltrated. She would never had stopped if she wasn't carrying the enemy in her camp. she would have went on to secure the whole bag, so to speak. So once you get infiltrated, if you making progress, you have to stop. Mm-hmm. So everywhere you see the leadership of a tribe taken from that tribe, that means they was making forward progress, and the government had to stop them in order to stop us from rising up and remembering that before a colonist ever came, we was already here. Before Mongolian came across the Bering Straits, we was already here, right? Before we had the Chinese road in Central America, we was already here. When there were no mounds or pyramids on the land, we was already here.
Facts.
Because we've been here so long, here wasn't here until we built it. And this is why America is truly the old world, and that the rest of the world was developed by people from America. But the Out of Africa narrative stems from a Eurocentric perspective of history, and this is why they gave you what's they call it, Tartaria and Barbaria, which is east and west of Rome, because Rome is the central point by which this perceptual viewpoint is seen through Roman eyes. The Roman eyes are the Bible eyes. The ones who carry the Bible see the world from a romantic point of view. Romance is not what we think it is. Romance is actually another term for a bromance, where an old man seduces a young boy. Right? Once he seduced the young boy, he sodomized him to take away his birthright of rulership. Right? By rupturing his root chakra. Now, the thing being is, we had to figure out who was next in line. Empress Veriasi was Red House. So if the Red House stopped because they was infiltrated, now it go back to the Blue House for the final resolution. If they have a competent chief that could show who did it, what they did, where they came from, explain how it was done, and then tell why. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Right? When those things can all be met, and all of the tribes have access to the information, every tribe don't believe the same thing. We're not supposed to. Right. Every tribe doesn't have the same standards by which they operate. We all supposed to be different in our own unique way. You could dress a blood up like a Crip, he's still gonna be a blood and heart. You could dress a Crip up like a blood, he's still gonna be a Crip at heart. Right? So you gotta realize that the cover can change, but what's in the heart remains the same. Right? So across tribes, the love can still be there. We just wearing different uniforms, fighting the same war. And as soon as we realize we ain't supposed to be fighting each other in order to overthrow those on top of us, as Tupac would say, my destiny to overthrow those on top of me, right? So in order to overthrow the ones on top of you, you got to know who you are. So this is why I told people, Bloods has always been a federally recognized tribe. They just didn't tell the Bloods. And they moved out all the Indians on the reservation. Right? Me and others showed that. We didn't just tell you, we showed you the proof.
Details.
And the Crips was from Northern California. They used to call them crabs. That's how we knew who they was, because the Bloods called them crabs. So when we did the tribe, we found out that they was also replaced by $5 Indians. Europeans masquerading as Indians. And then we was able to find where they supposed to be at. This is where you had conflicts on the land, because you got two people that's strong in pride and power that's not going to bother each other. And then you have outsiders standing in one camp, throwing rocks in the other camp, pretending to be there. They're supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now we fighting each other instead of fighting what we was put together for. This community revolution in progress. These brothers looking out on darkness, waiting on the return of the sun to rise in the west once again, because they didn't tell us that the map was flipped.
That's right.
South is up, north is down. East is left, west is right.
That's right.
So once you see it from its proper perspective, you realize that the motherland, right, or the Queensland is on the top of the earth, shaped like the Ashanti stool, which is a sacerdotal seat. Right? And they call it the outback. Outback, out behind your gown, your ass out. In the back. Right? So she's sitting on the stool with her ass out. But her front covered. And she holding the baby. And you know how our sister is built, and that explains why her ass out.
Right.
Because it was supposed to have been a woman, not a man.
So Rod, pretty much dealing with the judicial system and them setting up the Federal Reserve System and it being based all on contracts. A lot of the contracts they get us into, it's like, it's not by force, but it's like, oh, you can't do this unless you got this. Like, it's like you can't buy or sell. Yeah. Like you don't want to drive. Like, you drive. Right. Go ahead.
They call it adhesion contracts. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't accept you exercising the right. That's how you know they don't belong here.
Yeah, they criminals. Go ahead.
Look, the Supreme Court ruled over and over that the police ain't supposed to compel you to identify who you are with ID. The police say, the statutes say you got to identify when I pull you over with identification.
Mm-hmm.
So now you looking at administrators and the police and the judges at the local level going directly against legislators and judiciary and violating the Supreme Court order. The Supremacy Clause say they can't make a rule that violates your constitutionally protected rights.
Right.
That's why traffic courts can't hear constitutional matters. It's not a constitutional court. It's Article 1, not Article 3. Now, you got something called voir dire, which is the intermittent questioning for the purpose of determining the facts. Right? And in the case of the voir dire, you in a dialogue, you're requesting a dialogue with the judge in order to verify what jurisdiction you under. When you start going along the lines, they normally call a recess and try to get you to get a lawyer so that the bar member can facilitate you through the process of surrendering to their system, because he's the competent official that represents your interests, according to that person sitting on the bench. Now, the problem come in is irreconcilable conflict of interest. When you say an irreconcilable, that means that there's no remedy that can be made up to fix this problem. Right? The irreconcilable conflict of interest is the fact that the prosecutor is a bar member. The judge is a bar member. 9 out of 10, the clerk is a bar member. And then the defense attorney is a bar member. According to subject matter, this is a matter between barristers, and you, civilian, have nothing to do with the case at hand.
Right.
You have nothing to do with barrister matters. Why? You're not a member of the bar. That's a conflict of interest that cannot be reconciled. Well, if that's the conflict of interest that can't be reconciled, according to their law, what is the remedy for an irreconcilable conflict of interest? Total dismissal. It's like ruling on something that doesn't have a law to it.
Right.
But if they can get you to submit to the contractual language of statute, code, then you don't have to argue public law. Public law and code and statute are not the same. Public law is foundation rooted in what's called the common law. The common law was the law of the land prior to colonization that put us under the jurisdiction of maritime and admiralty. Maritime and admiralty is where you get your squatters' rights and salvage rights from. The salvage rights is the right to claim what you discover lost at sea. Your squatter's rights is your right to squat on what you've recovered from the sea without nobody taking it from you, for you can catalog it as your winnings. That's what they get the squatter rights from. Right? And it comes from, it's called squatter rights because it normally comes from a discovery of a new land and you had to sit in a squatting position while you wait on the ships to come.
Yeah, that's interesting about how they got this system set up to where it's like, oh, you voluntary compliance. You gonna well, you don't gotta do it, but if you don't do it, you ain't gonna get no food, or you ain't gonna be able to drive, or you ain't gonna be able to do this. And so it's like you said, adhesion contracts. It's all based on scare tactics. And if you don't go in there and you don't know nothing, you pretty much food for the bar.
Okay, now they got something called the duress doctrine. They can't, if they force you into a contract under duress, it nullifies the contract.
That's right.
If they lure you by deception into a contract, it nullifies the contract.
That's right.
Right? The Maxima law says fraud vitiates all contract. That means it's voided before it's ever a contract, even if they write it up as a contract. The fraud made it void on its face. It's automatically void. You cannot enter into contracts under duress or deception. The adhesion contract comes with a long list of fine print that most people never gonna read. Right? So we don't know, most of the time we don't know what that fine print say. We just know our baby need a social security card to go to school. I need my driver's license to get them back and forth and cash my checks.
Right.
Right. So you forced to use these documents to acquire these documents. They force you into an adhesion contract, a non-consensual contract that's one-sided. Right. The term in law they use is I forgot the word. I forgot the term, but it's a one-sided contract. It's a one-sided complaint. Right? Now, when they rule on it, any ruling is called an arbitrary ruling. That means they just winging it. They don't really got the power, but they just ruled it because they sitting in the position that look like the power. The arbitrary ruling. That means they just took it up on themselves to assert power that they don't have.
Hey, I heard one of the ancestors say, one of the master teachers, Taj Tariq Bey, say, if we do sign, what's your take on this? Signing, if you do sign with them, reserve your rights. Like he's talking about like a UCC-1.
Okay, now that's called that's called playing the paper game.
Okay.
That's literally called playing the paper game. That means that you in a system that's operating off this paperwork, and you haven't figured out yet how to get from under it. But you do know that you are aware enough to know that any contract signed under duress is void. Therefore, you could put U.D for under duress or all rights reserved, meaning that just because I signed this paper don't mean I surrender any rights.
Right.
That's because you playing the paper game with them. We passed that. We trying to get rid of their ass.
Yeah, it's completely right.
We don't want to play their paper game. That's why we're using the oral tradition and putting it out in the public for all of the tribes to see. Because now we can explain to them, following this oral tradition, and we've been watching Rod Hayes, Empress Redbird, following the oral tradition of reclaiming everything on the land in real time for the last 5 years. Never deviated, never stopped, all the way to now. Now everything is done. And it's always facilitated by the birth of a child. And then the child, the new royal heir has to be presented to the public by a competent big mama. It's already sat in the sacerdotal seat. And that's what they call the heralding of the age.
All right.
So
hey, we're gonna play this. We're gonna play this other clip because we got another 7-minute clip, and then we'll.
That's what Empress Verdiasi used to win her case, right? So they had to acknowledge it in order for her to be successful as she was. We all know she was because we also also stemmed from the same case from the heirs to him returning, right? And remember, it was also a grandfather treaty that preceded the Louisiana Purchase. Because you got to remember, when the original land allotment of the Vatican was assigned, most of the Louisiana territory was Spanish controlled, even though the Spanish had not entered yet. Right? And it was during the negotiations of the Treaty of New Orleans with the tribes that the French took the protectorate detail in order for them to use the port of Nola for the transport of goods and people, I guess. Anyway, so once the Louisiana Purchase was effectuated, the French government sold the Louisiana Treaty to the United States. You gotta remember that. That's important. And the United States, which is a corporation now, but which was it was forming from the Continental Congress. That's why the presidential succession, starting with John Hanson to George Washington, then George Washington is acknowledged as the first president. Under the Continental Congress, we had multiple presidents, but it wasn't until after what they called the first Constitutional Convention that George Washington became the president on the back of the Constitution written in the blood of Crispus Attucks. Right? Now, this contract is where we get the George Washington challenge from. That at the end of 200 years, if we mix you niggas up, you ain't gonna know from which side of the water you came. Right? This is where you come in with the reclassification. It's the scrambling of the minds of the people. You keep telling them what you want them to be. They know who they is, even if they don't say it out loud, because it might cause them to get lynched. But they know who they is. And the grandmamas and the mamas is going to keep it in the minds of the babies in the form of the redemption songs that's whispered in the ear of the babes by the young mothers. Because the soldiers are going to be born because we were still at war. And some of these soldiers that started all as pawns in the game is going to evolve in military understanding to the degree where he becomes a master strategist. who can offer his strategic advancements over the corporation by territorial rights, subjugating and overturning the admiralty jurisdiction. And now you got ISIS on the land.
Mm-hmm.
Because ISIS is on the land. Big Mama is home, having reclaimed her seat. So now, on behalf of all the tribes, we just waiting on Big Mama to sit in her sacerdotal seat and show the world, which is a metaphor for a bigger formula. As above, so below. As within, so without.
Hey, shout out Dr. Kia Pruitt in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Empress, the Empress.
Now remember, when she stopped her advance on the corporate government, the next Big Mama can't stop until she sit in the sacerdotal seat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The sacerdotal seat is not in D.C. It was in Philadelphia.
That's right.
The audacity of one of these Big Mamas to walk up in this building with these people's security there. Walk up there and sit on that seat while security telling you no. Knowing that as soon as enough of the tribal mothers remember, they're going to come out in mass support to serve the eviction on the corporation. Because they already Big Mama home. We just got to remember our culture. It's right there in our face. Right? So now, since the baton was passed from one empress, it got to go to another empress. But she got to be Blue House. She can't be Red House. Because the Red House got infiltrated.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And since the Red House got infiltrated, don't mean the Blue House didn't get infiltrated. It just means that you had to keep passing the baton from Big Mama to Big Mama until one of them sat on the seat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we finally got there.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Another thing too, Raw, is I got a video out on the Empress Radice talking about how she got infiltrated and how that when she was going to file charges over in the international courts, right before that, 2 days, the feds raided her house and stole all of her money. Like she didn't even have enough money to even get out of the country. They confiscated all of her like documents.
How long is the video?
It's about 7 minutes. I was gonna cut it, but it's like 7. The video is like 20-some minutes on the video side. It's called the Empress Radice with Bobby Hemmett. Bobby Hemmett. It's the longer version of the tape I just played. It's on the video side. I'll link it in the descriptions on this video of the show. But she go like 7 minutes and talk about breaking down how right before she was about to go file, like after all this stuff that we just talked about with the AI and with the Supreme Court. She was finna go when they revoked it. She was finna go over them to international courts, and 2 or 3 days before she was about to get on the plane to go to international courts, the FBI raided her house, all of her businesses. They stole like a $250,000 worth of her money that she had in different locations, to where she couldn't even go. And because, like you said, we at war. We at war with these people. So, and then when she go to try to hey, what's up? Like, how do I get my money or make a complaint about it? They say, oh, we don't know nothing about it. Like they had like the raid never happened. And look, they were supposed to notify the sheriff because the FBI can't really arrest nobody. They won't tell nobody that. So they had to notify the sheriff before they came to raid the Empress. They didn't even notify the sheriff. So they broke all kind of like, guidelines, because that's why you always, when you see the feds, the sheriff always be with them. Because the sheriff's got to make the sheriff is really the real police. The FBI not really police. They are
the marshal.
agency. Yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes they come with marshals. The marshals is the real federal police. They're the real federal police. The sheriff he got a county. right?
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, you might have had a sheriff that might have had 4 or 5 counties.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's so many people that they've gave a county to each sheriff. But back in the day, a sheriff could be over a sizable portion of land, like a game warden.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The game wardens, the only reason why they here is because they was established to stop the colonizers from slaughtering all the damn animals.
Mm.
That's what the created game wardens. Somebody had to stop the colonizers from basically extincting every native species of the land. So they created the game wardens to stop them. And that's why their number one thing is poaching. If they catch you poaching, they don't have to arrest your ass. They can light your ass up.
Right? Yeah, they take your boat, your car, they take your truck. Man, these people
and they don't need a warrant because you already on their territory. They operating from the law of the land. They're not operating from admiralty jurisdiction. And this is